I'm so excited. Justine is going to lead the way today, chapters 7, 8, and 9. I'm excited.
Me
Um,
too. I read all of them.
oh, well, good. Yay.
I finally feel like I caught up to y'all.
So, first, if I just ramble on, it's just because I'm nervous. That's all it is. Kind of still don't feel like I should be leading just yet. But that's okay. We're gonna roll with it. I've actually loved reading this entire book. I think some of y'all have seen the comment that I made of I have laughed at myself. Um, I have even cried in this book, and it's just, I've got all the emotions. So, chapter 7, I have lots of notes in here, but I just wanted to start with obviously the first two pages, 78 and 79. And for me, on 79, he was talking about the biggest mistake you can make is to not ask what mistakes you are making. And I was like, wow, okay. So if I want to be better, then I have to ask what I'm doing wrong. And that's so scary. Um, because nobody wants to like actually face those mistakes, or at least I don't. I hope I'm not the only one.
No,
Um,
you're not.
but I that really just kind of hit hard, and I started thinking a lot this week. We've talked about it and we've heard it multiple times. Don't compare yourself to anybody else's journey. And I think that's one of our mistakes, at least one of mine, that I try to, or not try to, but I try not to get caught up with is, we always want to find ideas from other people's posts and just trying to do better. But I need to stop kind of getting ideas there and just trying to focus on just being me. Um, and so that's one of my mistakes. And then also on page 80 is where he starts talking about successful failure. I love how he worded that. Because everybody is super scared about failing. Um, and that's always been a really big thing in my life is you'd never want to fail at something. Um, but obviously that's how we're going to grow. That's how we're going to be better. And so when he termed it as a successful failure, I was like, wow, okay, that's not as scary. Or at least to me, it was like, okay, it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to fail, but I have to be able to learn from it. So I don't know if y'all kind of understood it that way. But I really enjoyed that little part of just being able to kind of a successful failure. So what are
Yeah,
y'all?
I like on that on 80, like I actually made notes exactly what you had said about, and I wrote at the bottom, what mistakes am I making? Um, but then on that on 80, on the very last, right before recipe for successful failure, he said, become intentional, admitting my mistakes and learning from them. And then like you said about, like, I've had a hard time recently because I feel like I've stepped away from Plexus as a on the business end, because I've been so focused on making sure that I don't fail as a coach at cross country. And with, I mean, district is next week, junior highs this week, whatever. I mean, but my brain is there, that I literally had something that happened the other day. And it was right after I had read this on Sunday night and Monday. And I just looked at my youngest and I was like, what mistake am I making? What? And she's like, Mom, don't do that. I was like, no, I am, like, because that's right. Like, I know that I need to quit saying, why is somebody doing this whenever, like, what am I missing? Right. And so I looked at it in the fact that I look at all y'all's posts and I watch all you go through your daily jobs and your everything. And I'm always like, I can't keep up with that. Like, why are they so successful and I'm not? Do you know what I mean? And I found myself as I read all the way through to 9, that that I think one of the biggest problems I have, and you're not alone, is I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong when somebody calls me out. I will totally be like, yep, I did that. I'm sorry. But to just do it on your own intentionally, it says become intentional on admitting, like actually saying, holy cow, I screwed up. Holy cow, I missed this. Like, and like you said, not just piggybacking off somebody, which I think is a blessed thing that y'all have, or we have with Plexus, but I wrote it, be me and know your mistakes and have successful failures.
Yep. I love that. I feel all of that too. So
I just wanted to say that I think one of the biggest mistakes that we can make, and this is something that Jordan and I are actually going to train on team wide here this next month, is the mistake of trying to be perfect. And I am really bad about that. I am a perfectionist by nature. It was ingrained in me from the time I was a child, and to the point that like even when I was a teenager, my dad even told me, he's like, I won't have anybody that's anything less than perfect living in my house. And that's a tall order. And that was something that always stuck with me. Like I had to be perfect. And so like for fear of screwing up, I would either just avoid things or like try to cover up a mistake instead of owning it, admitting it, fixing it, and growing from it. And so that's the stage I'm in now, is trying to see where I have fallen short and improve in that area. And, you know, I know that like one of the biggest hurdles in what we do, especially for me, and I don't want to speak for all of you, that sometimes I fall backwards in my business because I'm I'm trying to be too perfect. I don't post consistently because it's just like I see all these other great posts and I'm like, that's a struggle for me. So I can't screw it up if I don't do it. And I find myself avoiding it. And it's a lot of it is subconscious. Like I don't realize that's actually why I'm doing that. But I think it's kind of a fear-based issue, the fear of screwing up or the fear of making a mistake and then having to deal with the consequences or admitting and feeling bad about yourself. And so I think if we can grow past that, then that's something that is going to make the learning from your mistakes a lot more successful. So stay tuned. We will be training about that soon.
no, I love that because I also wrote down, I tell Gracie all the time, she is a perfectionist. She wants everything to be perfect, everything to happen the first time. And so we talk to her all the time about it's okay to not get something the first time. It's okay to just keep working at it. And it made me kind of stop and think, like, at what point was it the way I was raised, or was it something that happened along as I grew up? At what point are we okay or make it easier for others to make a mistake and show grace that way, but we don't necessarily show grace to ourselves. You know, was it like you talked about, Amy, was it the way we were raised, or was it something that just developed over time? So that's something that I just am constantly trying to figure out too, with raising one of my own. So, and then also I wrote this down too on page 84. It was talking about learning from your mistakes. At the very top, he was talking about your own report card and saying, well, I made it through the end of the day without screwing up. And at first, when I read that, I was like, well, that sounds like a pretty good day. Like, hey, you made it through, you didn't make any mistakes. Great job, trying to be positive about it. And then I kept reading a little bit more, and I was like, wait a minute, no, hold on. I read it again, and the second time something popped in my head, and I was like, maybe it's not necessarily a positive thing, the way you think that way. Did I put myself out there? did I stay in my comfort zone, or did I kind of push out and challenge myself that day? Did I not screw up because I stayed in my comfort zone? Did I don't know. That was kind of my second thought when I read that. And so I don't know if that's a mind shift for me, or if it was just trying to think of like the mistakes and trying to correct them, and having those successful failures. So I don't know if anybody else kind of thought that way too, or what. So
I feel like I'm the same way as well. I'm very much, or I feel like not, I guess, as much anymore, but growing up, I was a big perfectionist and my dad is a big perfectionist. And so I think it trickled down to me. But whenever I was talking about like learning from your failures and how failure can be healthy and it's an inevitable part of getting to the top, it made me think about like in sports, like in high school or in college, whenever I lost, I was like mad at myself. I'm like, no, like I could have got that. I could have done that. I could have won. And I would beat myself up about it and beat myself up about it because I was a perfectionist. But really, I should have been thinking of it as how can I learn from this? How can I do better? And getting like older through college and getting towards like the upperclassmen level, that mindset was a shift. It was okay, what can I do now to shift this and turn this and learn from it and be better about it instead of just beating myself up about it all the time. And like in this business, it made me think of like the slow months. It's hard and it's like super just you're kind of hard on yourself because you're like, why am I not getting people? Why am I not like having people order? Like, what's going on? Why is this person canceling? And all these things, it's like wave after wave. But really, instead of beating yourself up about it, you got to think about it as what can I do differently? How can I shift what I am doing and try to make it better? Or what's one of the mistakes that I'm doing that I need to improve on? And so I love this chapter because it really made me stop and think of how is my mind working? Is it working in my perfectionist way of, am I beating myself up and just saying boohoo? Or is it working in the way of how can I be better and improve?
Yeah, I really liked the part where it said accept mistakes is the process of progress. And I think that especially like going into the chapters and keep going, like 9 really hit me hard. But I think that's I was a perfectionist whenever I was growing up to a point, but if it didn't have to do with running or soccer, I didn't make it a priority in my life. And I think that was a problem. But then whenever I got to college, I tried to make all of it. And I think that was a shift that was good. And then my problem was I was in a 20-year relationship where, like in chapter 9, and I'm not trying to push through, but it talked about being sedentary and being okay with being okay. And I did that for so long that now I'm 2 years on my own trying to start over at 43 and I'm trying to make what you're saying. I'm trying to make that priority again. And I'm trying to realize that it's not going to happen tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? And so with my business, I want it to grow. And sometimes I feel like I'm not accepting the failure, or I don't want to accept it. So I push it aside because I don't want to be up somebody's butt and aggravate them and annoy them. But then in the end, like y'all say over and over, it's true that sometimes that's what they want. They want you there to be a support system for them. Does that make sense?
yes.
One thing that I wanted to say, and it touches on what Justine was saying earlier about, like we tend to give other people grace, but we don't give ourselves grace. It goes back to chapter 6 last week when we talked about criticism. And it's like, in that chapter, he was, teaching us to handle criticism with grace and be sure that like when we're criticized that we're able to look at the things that people are saying and listen to them and evaluate them and get the element of truth out of them. And we have to be willing to do that with ourselves. But we also have to handle our own criticism with grace, like you were talking about, Shelby, is growing to the point where we can recognize that failure and instead of beating ourselves up, go, okay, what can I learn from this? What element of truth? What are the lies the enemy's telling me? But then what is the element of truth that I need to take away from this and improve for myself and my team? And so I think when we can do that, we're going to have a lot more success with learning from our mistakes. Also, yesterday, Allie was watching Zootopia. Have y'all ever watched that movie? Okay. The little Shakira song, I'm going to send it to y'all in our book study chat because I'm going to send you the link that has the words. I have a hard time listening, like understanding all of what she says, but I actually paid attention and like really focused on what she was saying. The lyrics are so good. So when we get off this call, y'all need to go listen to that.
That's actually one of my favorite songs that the kids like. We have this whole playlist for the kids. They get to pick out whatever songs they want and we add it to it. That's one of our favorites, like the whole family. And there's been a couple times where Gracie has, fallen down or feels like she has failed at gymnastics or cheer or whatever it is. And we'll just the whole drive home, we will play and sing that song, and it just brings everybody back to a happier place. So I love that song. It's great. So, anything else from chapter 7? Or are y'all ready to move on? Okay. So in chapter 8, I actually contacted Amy because I was starting to read, and the 80-20 rule or that part, I don't know, for some reason still has me a little confused. And I loved the way Amy had kind of explained it to me. Because really I was seeing it kind of as, you don't want to focus on I don't know. I'm still so torn about it. And maybe later on in the chapters, I will have a better understanding of it. But Amy, do you remember what you had said and how you explained the
Not,
80-20?
I mean, I don't know like 100% what I said. Basically, what I got out of it is that I think the key to wrapping up the whole 80-20 thing that he's going through is on page 92. He says the most productive 20% of my activities were 16 times more productive than the remaining 80%. And I think the takeaway on that is that we spend so much time trying to do it all that 80% of what we are doing is only 20% effective. But the 20% that we're great at, that is what we should be focusing on, has 16 times more productivity than the other 80% we spin our wheels doing. I think that's the point there, because the whole idea of the chapter is to stop micromanaging people and start managing your priorities. So I think it's prioritizing what you're really good at and letting somebody else do the rest, whether that's delegating dishes to your husband because, hey, I need to go rip out some work. So I need you to take the dishes tonight or tuck the kids in bed or, whatever it is. And then even like on our team, because I didn't even mean to do this, but when I was reading it, it made total sense. It's like, we're having a book study, but I know you guys are gifted and I can try to do it all myself, or I can ask you to do it. You grow, I grow, and none of us are killing ourselves doing it, you know?
Mhm.
And so I think that's kind of the point that he's trying to make there.
Absolutely. See, you explained it so much better than I probably could have. But did anybody else kind of struggle with that part, or was it just me? I see.
No, there were a lot of numbers. I was reading it, I would read it again and I'd read it again. I was like, huh. So I struggled with it too.
Yeah.
Maybe I just skimmed because I'm like, okay, what's the point here? That's how I'm like, what's the point? And then like the next sentence after that one that I read, it says, if I wanted to decrease the complexity of my life and increase my productivity, then I need to focus on my top 20%.
Gotcha. Well, I kept reading through, and I think this is where I kind of started getting more emotional. And I know, Amy, I've talked to you about this, and Shelby a little bit too. I'm going through a lot kind of right now with just figuring out my why and what I want to do. And so finding the main thing kind of really hit home for me a lot. And he talked about on page 94, during this season in my life, I changed from a doer of many things to a leader of a few things. And then also, some people believe that great leaders have all the answers, and that's not true. And I loved that because we, or at least I do, I tried to, when I started the business, I wanted to know everything, or I wanted to know everything before I started the business. And I remember Amy saying, no, that's silly. You can learn as we go. And I'm still learning to this day. And I'm learning that I can be a leader and love on people and do all of that and not have the answers, because we have other resources. We have other people that we can lean on too. And we can also kind of gain some of what am I talking about? Gain some of their strengths and some of their trials that they've gone through and learn from them without having to go through those mistakes as well. So I've really enjoyed, I think chapter 8 was probably my most favorite out of the three. There was something else too. I have so many notes.
It's interesting that you touched on that, Justine, about wanting to know everything, because he touches on that on 94 and 95, saying, I determined not to know everything. And he makes the point on 95 saying 20% of all the information you receive will give you 80% of what you need to know to make a good decision. And it's the same thing with the plexus stuff is, yeah, as you grow, yes, you want to learn more and be able to answer more questions, just so you can be more efficient in some of your conversations. But that's why this business is so simple. You can help people get started with 20% of the information and they can be successful. That's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And then also right along in that same page, I had circled, for leaders, it's better to know the most important things than to know everything. And that kind of stuck out. And I'm just like, wow, it's okay not to know everything. I just want to focus on these one or two things, and then I can obviously grow from there. Let's see what else. What else did y'all have from chapter 8? Because I have like a whole page worth of notes.
So on 96, sorry, I had to run away. Look.
Oh,
So the other rooster we have in there was trying to kill a baby duck that hatched today. So I had to go steal him. So Kaylee called me freaking out. She's like, Mom, get in here. So anyways, on 96, I wrote, need to adopt this logic to get to know them. And I think y'all have done a great job with this to me. I just need to adopt it to move it on. It says, get to know them and give them tasks that play to their strengths, then get out of their way and allow them to succeed, fail, learn, and grow. And just to remember that most tasks don't need to be done my way. They need to be done what's comfortable. And I need to accept that.
Yes, I wrote building relationships off of page 95. But building those relationships, getting to know your team, not just as a person, but their family and their entire life, and just kind of studying people is just more important than understanding the products, but understanding what they're struggling with and what you can help with, and just obviously just that real relationship part, just knowing them inside and out, really. So that's where we can kind of focus some of our, or at least my strength. I can kind of focus my strength on that and building that relationship. And then, of course, the products and everything else will kind of take place or take over from there. So,
one thing that I got out of chapter 8 is on page 101. The quote that says, genius is the ability to reduce the complicated to the simple. I feel like sometimes I definitely overcomplicate this process, or I'll like throw too much at my customers too quickly, and that's overwhelming and it's hard for them and I to communicate on that level. So sometimes it's easier that was just a good reminder for me to remember. It's just a slow, steady process. Like, yes, I can see the bigger picture and see what they need and all of this stuff after they fill out the symptoms chart, but they don't necessarily need to know that I know all of that. And I just make it a more complicated process than it is sometimes.
I
Yeah,
agree. I
that
think too that I get too excited. Like they start talking to me and I'm like, "Oh, okay. Yes. Okay, let's keep going," and all of that, and I'm like, "Okay, I got to remind myself to kind of slow down, let them do a lot more talking, and then just see how it goes from there." So, what were you saying, Amy?
I was just gonna say that you read, Kaylee, the genius is the ability to reduce the complicated to the simple. Um, he like back on 93 at the beginning of the chapter, he says, if I want to accomplish objectives and be productive, I need to provide forethought, structure, systems, planning, intelligence, and honest purpose to all that I did. Basically, I needed to keep things simple, is what he's saying. You know, it's developing things and systems in place to simplify what we do. And I love that.
Yep. Absolutely. Do y'all have anything else from chapter 8? No. Okay. All right. So chapter 9 was just an overall great reminder to never stop learning. And I believe before Plexus, I found myself not growing anywhere. As a person, as a leader, as an athletic trainer, any of that. I was content with being where I was. And going through this book, I was like, wow, yeah, that's definitely where I was, and that's not where I want to be. And so, yeah. So I had the first page, or the first thing I had was on 107. I'm still trying to figure out and still learning how to kind of put myself first in order to be better for not only my family, but also my team. And sometimes that's really hard. That's not kind of who I am, I think, down to the core, but But I'm trying to figure that out. Like, it's okay, just as a mom, like, it's okay to take an hour to sit with y'all, and grow here and not be with them. It's okay to be away from them for a moment. Because I know once I get done here, I'm going to be in a much better place, a much better mindset, and just be a lot happier for them. And so I have to remind myself of that as a leader as well. Like, if I'm stressing too much, about trying to get them to send out messages or start the conversations or anything like that, that's not helping me, and it's not going to help my team either. So that was a really good reminder. And I have to, of course, continue to remind myself of that. I don't know if anybody else is like that.
My mom's like that.
She just called you out.
True. Honestly, it's something that I've gotten better at. I think part of what made that easier was my girls getting a little bit bigger. I think when your kids are young and like just by that's our nature, right? To take care of people and make sure everything's taken care of, and we do ours last. You fill your plate last. You do your laundry last. You go to bed last. You're the one turning out the lights. I mean, it's in our nature. And so like that's a great thing because we're nurturers and that's what God created us to be. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that we are not doing well as a mom or wife if we take time for ourselves. Because I love that you recognized, Justine, that, just sitting down for 30 minutes to an hour on a call puts you in a different mindset and a different headspace to be able to go and do dinner with your kids and bath time and all of that. You're going to enjoy it more because you've had that time for yourself. It's still an area that I'm working on too, but as long as you set boundaries with your family, they will respect that, and you just tell them this is what I need to be successful for you. And there's nothing wrong with that. And then, when everybody knows the expectation and the boundaries, it's easier for you to hold yourself accountable to those things too.
Right. Absolutely.
I liked the part where it said our limitations put lids on the people we lead. And I think that sometimes, like, I'm guilty of that because I'm trying so hard to focus, like you said, Amy, to make sure everything's done with everybody else. And so then I leave myself falling short of my own goals.
Mhm.
I liked the part on page 110, and it said they understand that you can't conquer the world by staying in a safe harbor.
Yep.
And like last week, Amy asked me to lead the book study, and then Jordan asked me to lead Tuesday Jam. And I was like, whoa, no, that's not my safe harbor. No, no, no. And so when I read that, I was like, wow. I mean, it makes sense because we like to stay where things are comfy because that's what we're used to. And like, it made me think of like when I was teaching, I was not happy for a lot of the years that I was teaching. But it was something that I've done for so long that I was like, this is my zone. Like, this is what I went to college for. This is what I'm going to do. This is my life. This is what I'm going to do. And it was kind of like my safe harbor. Like, this is who I am. This is what I went to college for. This is why I'm doing it. And it became so like
Don't
like
speak.
a safe place to me that it was just like, this is something I'm going to have to stick with and just see it through. But whenever I made the decision to stay home, it was out of my comfort zone because I was like, what if this happens? What if this happens? What goes wrong if we don't have the money for this? Or I just thought of all the what ifs. And like, I guess what I'm trying to say is it ended up playing out in my favor, and it played out in a positive because I broke out of my safe harbor and stopped doing something that I wasn't happy with. Um, and now every single day I love what I do. And I had to break out of my safety net to do that. And so whenever I read that part, I thought of just my past career, and I thought of Plexus, and I thought of like all the things that as leaders y'all push us to do. And it's getting us to break out of our comfort zones. And so I'm really thankful for that.
And you've done great in every task that has been way. It was scary. And you're
Well, I almost like I told you I broke out in hives. I was so nervous.
and you did awesome. Nobody would have ever known.
Nope.
But I'll
'Cause
tell you this. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'll tell you this. You know, I know y'all have expressed the desire to be able to, you know, stand up and lead on stage and tell people what you're doing. And all of these little things are just stepping stones to getting there. And I got an email from a lady at corporate earlier this week, and she was like, "Hey, I heard you're going to be at Ruby's on the Rise. I would like to visit with you when you have a chance." I was like, "Yeah, sure." So we get on a Zoom, and they asked me to give my pleximony at Ruby's on the Rise. And like, a year ago, I would have been terrified. But because I've done little things like this, I'm like, I can do that. Like, I've seen people do that. I can do that, you know? And it's exciting. Yes, I will be nervous, but it's exciting. And so I am just thrilled at these opportunities for you to get to do those things too. It excites me.
I really liked on page 113, it said the road to success is uphill all the way, and most people are not willing to pay the price. And I see that like on so many levels. And sometimes I feel like I'm that one that's like midway up the hill, and I'm like, nope, that is entirely like that's like Appalachian Mountains. We're not going up there. Like, I can't do that. You know what I mean? And I need to quit having that mentality and know that I listen to all the success stories from both Jordans and everybody. Like, it's okay whenever you have downtime and down months and all that kind of stuff. Like, just keep persevering and it's gonna be fine.
Yes, I mean, that's where I'm at right now. Is on page 113, just a little bit further down. I sought out places where growth was valued and people were growing. This helped me change and grow. That's it. That's where I'm at right now. I see all of everybody succeeding and everybody doing all these great things. And I know that's not necessarily where I'm at in athletic training, and I want to change that. So I'm getting out of the comfort zone. And we're gonna try it. We're gonna get out of that safe harbor and do all of the scary things. So, yep. And then also on 115 was about the people and their differences and all of that. I put be around people who are better than we are. Then, yeah. Being around people who are better than we are tends to motivate us to stretch and improve ourselves. And that's exactly what all of y'all do. Because we all have different strengths, and I love like just finding videos. Like, I'll give you an example. Jordan Roddenberry, I just love listening to her. There's something about her. I know she's way better than me at so many things. But just listening to some of her videos just puts me in a better mindset, just a better place. And I'm just more motivated, even if it's not even a video on motivation or anything like that. She's just, I don't know, there's something about her. Jordan Gibson's the same way. Amy, of course, you're the same way as well. But there's so many of y'all that in plexus that I'm just like, okay, this I know I'm in the right spot. So what else did y'all have from chapter 9?
I liked on page 115 where it said the secret to your growth can be found in the people you surround yourself with, and people's attitudes and actions rub off on one another. I liked that part because like this month for me is like a really slow month because my conversations are slow and it just feels like nothing's happening. And so I think back to like in life, like different slow months and when it got hard. And if you didn't have the support system around you or the people there to help you grow and to push you, then it's really easy to just give up on that. But I mean, as soon as I started with Plexus and Amy threw me into the team and the community, I instantly knew this was something different because everybody surrounds you with like so much love and support and they want you to succeed. And it's really special because not everything does that. And having so many people who have your back and want to push you to do things and want to push you to succeed, it's just special because you want to be better and you want to do the best you can possibly do. And when you have slow months, you want to improve those slow months because you have people to look up to.
Yeah, I liked in the end of the chapter when he said, it said that the Tatar tribes of Central Asia used to have a curse that they would use on their enemies. They didn't tell them to get lost or drop dead. Instead, they would say, "May you stay in one place forever." What a horrible thought. And yeah, I don't want to be the same tomorrow that I am today. I don't want to just settle for good enough. I want to continue to improve and be better.
Absolutely. I put
I agree with both of you.
all of that, and I just put wow. Like just wow. It's like it's a terrifying thought to just stay in one place.
I guess I might have been thinking about something else when I read that part because I do not remember that, but I like it. I'm really glad you brought that up because I didn't even know I missed it, but I like it.
It's the very last page of chapter 9.
Yeah. I guess I
I
was
love
already.
that because that is unfortunately that's kind of where I was for like 20 years. And so I was around people that were okay with being stuck, and they still are. And that's why I've gone through the transition of my life over the last 6 months. But like Shelby was saying, like Plexus is like not that I've done a whole lot of sell like this before, but this is unlike anything I've ever done and anybody I've ever been around, because it doesn't matter if like I haven't had a new VIP in 2 months, and I still feel like I'm just as much as part of the team as everybody else who gets everything that they're supposed to meet for the month. You know what I mean? Even whenever I feel like I'm falling short from everything. And so I still feel like there's a reason why I'm still going. And that's why I say every time I post about it, like God brought Kaylee to me the day that she asked me on Facebook, like there was a reason for it. And I know it. I just got to find my faults and find my failures and keep going.
Well, I love hearing everybody's insight. I mean, I feel like we're all kind of saying the same things, and because when Shelby talks and when Melissa talks, I'm just like, yes, absolutely. That's why you keep seeing me shake my head, but I'm like, yes, I feel all of that, all of that. So, but I love listening to y'all, and kind of getting y'all's insight on this as well. Kind of gives me a little reassurance that I'm here for the right reasons, like you were talking about. So,
And we're not alone.
yes, we're not alone.
I want
Absolutely.
to add something to what Melissa said. You said the how like not getting the amount that you want per month, or like someone has getting everything they're wanting, but you're not getting everything you're wanting. I have those months, and like I said, this month is my month of that. And I had an aha moment the other day, and I wanted to just share it with you because it made me kind of think about it in a different way. And like I said earlier, I beat myself up about it all the time. And like, I'll be like, what am I doing? What's my mistake? Like, and which is okay. You need to find your mistakes. But the other way that I was thinking about it was maybe this month is a month that God's trying to show me something different, and he's wanting me to focus on something different. And so like for me personally, this month was my month to focus on like personal development and personal growth. And so I dive deep into our book study or watching podcasts or reading my Bible devotional. Like just I felt like I was being called to dive into something different to help me grow in that area. And so that's just one way that I was thinking of it differently, instead of like being like mad at yourself for not getting what you want every month. Think of it as God is making me think about it and see it from a different perspective, and maybe grow in a different area of this job.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's
Yep.
neat is your team has still had growth because Amanda has been adding this month. And so like you may not, your personal level 1 VIP team may not have grown as much as you would like, but you are developing leadership skills and passing that on to your team. And so you still had growth, just in a different area.
Yeah.
Which is awesome to see, because I mean, having a team is really nice because you can see their growth whenever you aren't necessarily seeing yourselves growth.
Yeah.
And so this month has taught me to I think I forgot what page it was on that in the book, but it talked about empowering your team and like not necessarily seeing like the negatives of everything that you're thinking like in your mind about, oh, I didn't get this person, or this person's not responding, or things like that, but thinking of the positives of what your team is doing and empowering them in that. And Amanda had an amazing month. And so it was really fun to like push her to go for things and watch her get it and watch her get her goals. And it felt like I accomplished something too, because I was pushing her to do it. But it's her wins, but I felt great in it as well. So it was a fun month, even though I didn't get my VIPs I wanted.
Well, do y'all have anything else to add? Awesome.
No, I'm good. And I don't mean to jump off, and I know y'all are fixing to end, but I've got my senior dinner tonight, but for my 4 senior cross country, we're having our team dinner up here at the school. And so
Fun.
luckily I don't have an assistant this year, and this has been another task I keep saying in my brain, like of God saying, you have to ask for help. Okay, we learned that in the book too, like hand it over. And so like the kids are decorating in the foyer right now, and I have a duck now, and I'm like, and I need to take a step back and quit saying that like it's a problem, and that like you just said, Shelby, is that like sometimes he's just building us up for the right thing, and we just have to see it as that. So I love all of you, and thank you for encouraging me, because I've found myself too many times in the last 2.5 years that I find reasons not to grow in my personal way and just complain about things, and so it's grown not only how I'm building it, but like in my faith too. And so I appreciate all of y'all more than you know.
Of course. Well, next week is our last week. And
I know.
we're gonna do 10, 11, and 12. And I'm excited for the growth from this. And so I'm proud of y'all for being consistent. Thank you guys for joining me in this. And if nobody has anything else, then we will see you next week. Get ready.
Okay, yeah.
Set your goals. I want to talk goals
Yes.
this week.
Okay.
Set your October goals.
Okay.
All right.
Y'all have a blessed week.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.